More than 30 years ago, a little boy was repeatedly molested here in South Bend, and now his abuser has been sent to prison.
16 News now had a camera in the courtroom for the sentencing hearing. That's something that hasn't happened here at WNDU in St. Joseph County in years.
Our Caroline Clapp brings us part one of her exclusive 16 News Now I-Team exclusive, A Victim No More. Caroline, tell us about it.
Josh and Lauren, Judge Sanford approved my request to have a camera at the sentencing hearing for Alan Tomaszewski last week. That's when Brandon Rogers had a chance to look his abuser in the eye when he addressed the court. Rogers' story may be upsetting as it's about child sexual abuse, but he hopes it brings comfort to other survivors out there.
You do not even classify as a human. You are insignificant, a rapist, a child molester. You are nothing.
Powerful words delivered straight to the face of his abuser.
On that same floor, in that same double-wide trailer.
43-year-old Brandon Rogers never thought he would see this day in court.
Out of respect for the court, I will watch my mouth, but I refuse to bite my tongue.
A day 32 years in the making. Rogers grew up in Florida, but came to South Bend during the summers as a child after his mother divorced Alan Tomaszewski.
We'd spend the summer, and then at the end of every summer, he would take us on this big, huge, extravagant vacation, going to Cedar Point, Dollywood, the Grand Canyon, and drop us, my brother and I, back off at home like, here you go, and, you know, and that's how it happened.
What happened is what Rogers remembers as years of repeated sexual molestation. As a child, the first time this started, you didn't really know what was going on, did you?
I didn't understand. It's, you know, I was a child, but, and I was confused, but after a couple years, I didn't need to be told. I just knew what was going on was wrong. But I was so scared to come forward because God forbid, you know, if no one believed my story and to be sent back up here, you know, I was scared to death.
Rogers also spent those summers in South Bend with his half-brother. But when Rogers was around the age of 12, his mother told him the man he thought was his father was really his former stepdad.
I actually came up here one more summer after I found out, because I felt like I had to come up here and let it happen to me to protect my brother. And the last summer I was here, I came to the conclusion that my brother's old enough, and I know there was no chance that it would happen to him. And then I sort of thought, well, he was probably just doing this because I wasn't actually his son.
So it did not happen to your brother?
No, absolutely not. Thank God.
Rogers says from there, he tried to move on with his life, but the trauma of the abuse never left him.
Whether it's been a second, an hour, or the whole day, I've thought about this every single day of my life.
Rogers says the abuse started in the late 80s. 32 years later, he decided to speak out.
And the more I started to talk about it, I started to feel better. And then, as I sat there and got more comfortable talking about it, I was like, you know, this feels great that I no longer have to keep this secret. And then I started to think, well, he's alive up here. If I don't have to keep this secret, what gives him the right to keep this secret?
And in part two, you'll find out how prosecutors were able to charge Tomaszewski all these years later. That's straight ahead at 5.
You talk about the fact that you were able to bring a camera into that courtroom, something that does not happen often.
That was a first for me as a reporter.
Talk about that process.
Well, I submitted that request over a month ago to Judge Sanford, and the morning of, I got a response back, and he said, you can come on in with the camera. So.
To hear those words.
I'm so glad you did, because it was so powerful to hear him address his abuser for the first time like that.
And he wanted you at home to be able to hear that story, so I'm glad Judge Sanford approved that request as well.
Part two coming up in just under an hour. Caroline, we appreciate the reporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.